You there! Are you tired of reading Shakespeare? Don't you want to beat up that one guy who's always better than you, or date that one girl which is just out of your league? Well, too bad! They're both related to Shakespeare. I know, it's weird. I didn't make the connection at first either. Off the point. Let's get to the relevance of Shakespeare in the modern age.
William Shakespeare was presumably born on the 23rd of April 1564 and was a poet-playwright dubbed England's national poet for his famous plays that capture the political, cultural, and emotional sides of England and life in England during his time. Born in Stratford-upon-Avon, he moved to London to pursue his dream of writing plays and acting, and records from 1592 show that many of his plays were produced and that he was thoroughly acting in them. In the 1590s, he was a managing partner in the Lord Chamberlain's Men, an acting company in London that changed their name to King's Men later on. His writing styles were innovative for his time and contained much free flow and phrases and metaphors not normally used. He personally saw out construction of the biggest open-air amphitheatre in London that he used frequently. Records say he was interred on the 25th of April 1660, which means he must have died on the 23rd of April, his birthday. He might have died, but his legacy continued with various works such as Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth, the epitome of his life.
Many aspects of Shakespeare have made it into the modern world. For instance, his themes and his languages. A great example of this is House of Cards. It's a story based on a man who has need for power, and thus he betrays his friends. Kind of like Macbeth.
Shakespeare also questioned ideas and philosophies at that time, such as women's powers and women's rights. What classes allowed to marry what? Of course, this was during the age of feudalism, so there was a hierarchy system. You can clearly see this in plays such as Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, Twelfth Night, Hamlet, all those classic Shakespearean plays. However, to avoid having criticism from the church, because back at that time the church was pretty powerful and they could shut you down,
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
he had to set them up in faraway lands. So, he could say, oh no, this happens over here. Like, I had nothing to do with this. I'm just writing a beautiful story.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Even though sometimes they did have hidden messages, and by sometimes I mean most of the times. However, those hidden messages were mainly in his themes, but I shall not be talking about that. Danny will be.
Love? Betrayal. Hatred. Those are some of the themes that Shakespeare has used in his plays.
Themes are the ideas that Shakespeare explores dramatically through the experience of his characters, and they define the play. There are common themes in all of the plays, such as appearance and reality. But in addition to those, each play explores its own issues, which are dramatized in the language, the action of the characters, and in the setting. The effect of Shakespeare's themes in the actual days have been influencing many shows and movies that got inspired by Shakespeare's themes. Romance was the theme he used the most in his writing and plays, but many more such as dignity or treachery were also used. He also wrote a lot of writings referring to treachery to tell harmful things that happened in that time. This inspired a lot of actual poets in these days.
Many of you reading Shakespeare's book are wondering, what is this thy word? What thou'st? What is this little apostrophe on the word which makes it one word? What?
The English language has changed thoroughly throughout time, and although English was created way before Shakespeare's time, he has influenced it quite a lot. In Shakespeare's plays and poems, he uses a dialogue of English called Early Modern English language that was used between the 15th to the mid-late 17th century. His style and word choice are famous and evident throughout his plays and poems, though one of the most recognizable aspects of Shakespeare is his use of made-up words, such as
anon, alarm, sigh.
Some of these Shakespeare invented and are still being used today are academe, accused, addiction, assassination, and bedroom. Bedroom. There have also been many famous phrases in his plays, such as To be or not to be, that is the question in Hamlet. Tempt not a desperate man in Romeo and Juliet, and fair is foul and foul is fair in Macbeth. Shakespeare's language, although confusing to some, is his way of provoking emotion to the reader. When a certain word or phrase is said by a certain person in a certain way, there is a sense of emotion to it. Take Macbeth, for example. When he talks about the dagger that he sees before him, the reader can sense he is going crazy, due to the language he uses, such as the way he describes the dagger, which is not even there.
And that, my friend, was the modern day relevance of Shakespeare. So go back to sleep, and when the teacher comes in and catches you, surprise her. Because who doesn't like a surprise?